Now the moment you've all been waiting for, I turn you over to today's moderator, Nickelodeon's VP of Animation Originals Development, Carrie Kim.
Wow, this is exciting. 15 years, holy moly. This is great. Well, I'd like to introduce you to Dante Basco. As you guys all know who he is, Zuko, author of Rufio to Zuko. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Angela Song Mueller, who's a character designer. Giancarlo Volpe, who's a director. We have in the audience the creators. Wave, and Michael DiMartino. They'll be outside. You guys know the signing soon, but they are here to support us all. Really excited to have you guys here. So I thought we would just dive in with some great icebreakers. Okay, are you Kataang or Zutara?
Oh, right in, right now? Right now? Right off the bat?
We're just gonna rip the Band-Aid off.
Zutara!
Zutara forever. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I'm Kataang because I relate to Aang. I want the nice guy to get the girl. Not the Zuko type.
I was Zutara.
There you go. I actually wrote a poem. Yeah, it's a Zutara poem. Because I don't know.
I feel like you have to stand up and do
Now
it.
you
No,
have
it's just
to do
really
it.
short because whatever, we talk about it online. I'm like, the fans in the interwebs consider me the captain of the Zutara ship. So I had this
Are we
poem.
accurate?
The poem goes, sometimes the memory of what could have been is so much stronger than what actually happened because the memory of perfection lasts longer. And even though we didn't end up together, it'll never change the fact that you changed my life forever. Zutara.
Awesome.
Perfection, absolute perfection. Especially the whispering of Zutara.
It's like a dream. It's like a
Everyone,
dream.
can we just do that right now real quick? Zutara.
It's great. I mean, it's one of those great things about when a project like this becomes so big. It's like there's things that are canon, and canon is great, and there's things that aren't canon, and all the fanfics that follow are just add to the legend of what the original property was.
Yeah. Have you ever tried that when you're like ordering at McDonald's? Like, I'll have a quarter pounder with cheese. Zutara.
No, but I do get recognized a lot at Starbucks because a lot of times cashiers are just taking your order and they're not really listening to you. They're like, "What do you want?" And I'm just like, "Can I get a grande white chocolate mocha?" And they're like, "Are you Prince Zuko?"
That's amazing.
And then your hands come up and you're like, "Yes, I am."
When did you guys realize how huge this impact and the fandom, was it in the first season? Like, did you know all along that it was just gonna blow up to such amazing love?
Like, I always thought that we were working on something special. Like, I just did. That's why I quit my job to come over and work on this show. But I didn't get that it was big until it was either DeviantArt. That was like
Art, wow.
That was like a moment where I was like, wow, people are really talking about this show. And then there was probably, I think it might have been the first Comic-Con panel or something where I kind of realized like, oh, like we were turning people away and it was just the first season or something.
Yeah, I had no clue. You know, it's very interesting because when we were doing this, especially the first few seasons, it's before internet happened. None of us had Facebook. Twitter didn't exist yet. Like none of that existed, right? And I remember I was shooting a movie in Toronto, and one of the other actors on the film started freaking out because I kept leaving the set once a week to do this thing, and I'm like, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, a cartoon. Like, I'm doing this cartoon. I'm like, what's the name of the cartoon? And I was like, it's like Avatar, it's like Nickelodeon, Last Airbender. He's like, what? what are you doing? And he started freaking out. And I kind of got hit like, okay, that's interesting. And then I was at Sundance that year, and I ran into Chris Isaacs, right? And he was like, Dante, we're like in the snow. And he's like, that cartoon. Can you believe it? I'm like, I know what's going on. He's like, what? What did we do? I was like, I don't know, clue. And it was really big because we were walking around Sundance and people were like talking about Avatar: Last Airbender to us. And we were like, it was weird.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is people don't realize like it's sort of a slow burn. Like you find out later that people actually liked the thing you were slaving over.
What was the, obviously as it was building, you were seeing all this fan art. Can you guys think of any of the crazy fan art that you really loved or was insane and couldn't believe was created?
Well, I just remember, I think it was a couple years even after the show ended or something. I was rolling up to the Burbank airport to pick up a friend or a family member, and I got behind a very large tan minivan that had a giant arrow on the hood. And I was looking at that, and I just happened to look at the license as I was pointing behind it, and it said yip yip. And I was like, are you kidding me? I don't know if you've seen it around, but it had California plates, and I was like, that's commitment. I was like, oh my god, that is such commitment. So I think that's also when I also realized, how what kind of a hit it had been. And we knew we'd seen the popularity kind of just spiking after the first season and stuff, but that's really what I was like, oh my god, someone got license plate, in the car, they committed to it, and then, I mean, seeing obviously we were in a con to see the continuation of how much cosplay is still out there after all this
Crazy
time.
amounts of cosplay.
Yes.
Tattoos.
Yes,
Tattoo.
permanent art.
It's wild. And then can you sign this? I'm like, sure, I'll sign your leg.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That's great. Okay, more icebreakers. What kind of bender would each of you be? You've been asked this before, I'm sure. But we want to know.
Firebender. I mean, it's not even a question. Firebender.
Surprise. I feel like mine changes with age. Like there was a time when I was more of a waterbender, but now I'm more practical, which is I want to be a firebender so that I can make pizzas really fast.
2 firebenders.
I think I was supposed to be like a waterbender-ish, but then I realized I was more stubborn and solidified like an earthbender. A little bit more set in my ways. Again, with age, my answer has changed. So.
Okay, here's one of my favorite questions. What part of the Avatar universe would you choose as your retirement home?
I mean, Ember Island.
That's true.
Ember Island.
Ember Island.
Yeah, Ember Island.
Somewhere warm. That's all I saw the ice in season 1.
It's weird. I'm sort of a big city guy, so I'd probably be like Ba Sing Se or something. And I'd go to all the museums and the cafes.
It's true. Old man Zuko's just back on the boat. Just for old time's sake, just gonna travel the world.
Just a lonely captain.
Looking for that girl I went on a date with at the fountain that one time. Like, where's she at?
Yes.
Jin, where is Jin? We had this great date, and then she ghosted me, and what happened to Jin? It was so cool.
That's the
moment.
spin-off we need.
Now old man Zuko just on the boat, trying to capture Jin and reclaim her.
Sipping some gin.
Where's our hip-hop music busting in now? Angela, what are some animals that you wish you had made and created and put in the show?
Well, boy, I don't know. Brian threw all kinds of great combos at me, and and I have to say he gave me the opportunity to put my favorite animal in the show, which is my spirit animal, which is my Sophie, which is my Shiba Inu, and she was kind of the base of the knowledge-seeking fox spirit. So she's still around. She's 16 years old. Yeah, my old lady. So I feel very blessed to have been able to kind of honor her in that way too.
Oh, that's great. And Giancarlo, so when you think about all of the episodes that you directed, what is there a scene that you're most proud of, or of all the you worked on that spoke to you and you really enjoyed and really had the freedom to?
It's so hard to pick. It's like asking you to pick your favorite child or something. But I think one that someone asked me this a few weeks ago, and the answer that I came up with was, you remember in the Firebending Masters at the end when they had to go to the top of the kind of stairs and do this dance that interacted with the dragons? I had a lot of fun drawing that sequence, and it was like sort of treating the dragons as these giant ribbons, because it was like, how do you make dragons move and also look like the way two humans are dancing? It was very kind of abstract, but I just sort of treated it like with every movement they'd make it, drag this long ribbon that happened to be two massive dragons, and that scene is highly gift now.
Yeah, dragon dance. I've done that dance with fans.
Have you?
There's pictures of me.
Yes.
They're like, can we do it like that? I'm like, sure. We can do that.
Zutara.
Thank you, Zutara.
So as you know, today's event is hosted by AMP, which is our Asian American Employee Resource Group at ViacomCBS. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about inclusion and representation. And Dante,
Yes.
you wrote and published your memoir, Rufio to Zuko, as your journey as a performer. And so I'd love to hear from you, like, what made you decide to share your story?
Yeah. I think it was just a great time to do it. I really didn't. It wasn't something that I came up with. The publishers at Not Occult Media, they approached me about writing a book, and I was like, what? I was like, I'm too young to write an autobiography. I'm not that old, am I? But they really, Daniel Lisi from over there, he said, I really want your story because I want to tell a story about Hollywood through the Asian perspective. And he's like, you're the kid that we all grew up with. And I was like, okay, I like that. And so I set about writing the story. And for the last 10 years, I've been producing, outside of my acting stuff, I've been just producing Asian American films out of Hawaii, here in LA, and then also the last two films I produced are coming out of Southeast Asia. And so really kind of sitting down and kind of giving my point of view of what it was to grow up in Hollywood. I came in when I was 10, this is my 35th year in Hollywood, and it's ironic because now it's like a new golden era for like Asians, or the first golden era for Asians in Hollywood, and to be a part of that, like myself and my crew, but also people like Mako, who's, I talk about him in the book. He was my mentor, and he was Uncle Iroh, and how this show and this generation is part of what Crazy Rich Asian became, which Parasite is now continuing. It's really a fascinating time for Asians in Hollywood.
What do you think contributed to that, the rise? Do you think it's just the time, or?
I mean, it's all of it, It's wild. I mean, talking to John and Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians, and he does a quote from my book. He was like, when you did Rufio and Hook, that was me as a kid, the first time I saw my likeness on film and thought I can be a part of Hollywood. And this is the guy that ends up doing Crazy Rich Asians. And so these little things are what kind of like accumulate over the years and become, the wave that happens. And in a lot of ways, Avatar, Last Airbender was a part of that, even as we were starting to do it. And I was even, when I first came and auditioned for it, I really was like, this is never going to work. This is not. Because in your mind, you're like, what is this? I remember I came to here, and you're like, you come here in a time in the, what year was that? Like early 2000s or 2003. And so it's a little bit different. This whole, I don't know if you guys, anyone was working here at the time. The building was all white and had Double Dare slime on the roof, right? And the big Nickelodeon letters, and you walk through the, through the gates, and there's murals, massive murals of SpongeBob and Cat Dog, great classic Nickelodeon stuff. And then they give you a script that is obviously Asian-inspired, epic, tale of Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, and you're like, this isn't Nickelodeon. You're like, this is definitely not going to work. And it's a testament to see something that not only worked, became, a phenomenal hit. And I think, if there was one of those things about representation, I think it takes everything. It's not one thing. You can't pinpoint one thing. It's everybody. And having a great like Mako, who's like a prolific Asian actor for decades. And people always ask me about Zuko and Uncle Iroh's relationship. And I said the irony is, Mako was Uncle Iroh to me. He played my uncle or my father, I think like 4 times in my career since I was 12. And actually the first time we acted together, he plays my uncle in a film called Perfect Weapon, and super Zuko Iroh feels. And so to kind of do this project, which became his last project, and it's always emotional when I watch Dante Basco say, and we do his vignette and the dedication to him. It's so emotional to me. But we're a part of representation. I think definitely as we look at Hollywood, it's really great to be a part of a project like this that I think really helped the tide come in.
That's great. Angela, 20 years in animation and art, it's pretty wonderful. Can you tell me, a story or an example that, like a challenge that you faced in your career as an Asian American?
Not too. I've been pretty, I would say, fortunate for the most part. But I think, they're more on the female, I think, gender issue. I think for myself as opposed to necessarily Asian American. But again, like coming onto a show like this, it's like I'm being half Korean. I've always been like somewhat, kind of like trying not to be hyper aware but aware at the same time, but then like about blending in and then not blending in, and being questioned kind of my own identity. I question myself a lot of the time. Just like I got a lot of those questions of like, just what are you? And it's I don't get offended by it anymore, but it's definitely was like a questionable like it's kind of a what am I? I'm a human, like I don't know, sometimes had to answer it, but
A waterbender.
Zutara.
But I think it was really good, like you were saying, to like read about or find out about the show like this, to be like, to see some sort of representation and knowing that I could kind of bring a little bit of that recognition to different cultures, and like especially Brian being so adamant and insistent that we research everything and not just kind of blindly just kind of stereotypical, Asian culture stuff, this and that. It was like, no, we did a lot of like research on these micro tribes throughout, Asia and China and stuff, and based a lot of like little cities and little details and stuff like that. So that was kind of a great way to kind of delve deeper. And I do feel like, in this day and age, it would be even more so because again, we were kind of limited to internet access even at that time. And I think we were kind of digging through books and stuff too to try and find as much research as we could. But I felt like the show did a really great job of representing that stuff too. But I felt myself, I was really proud to be able to be a part of that and again have that kind of acknowledged. I think a little bit more. Like we're trying to be very aware of that stuff in this kind of show. I don't think I saw that as often on some of the other shows. I worked in prime time, I worked in other shows, and I think it's been a little bit more glossed over. And again, kind of Asian representation is kind of just glossed over as like, again, just more stereotypical and generic, but it was nice to be a little bit more pinpoint on things and kind of focus on different cultures and stuff.
So great. So this is for all of you guys, can jump in at any time, but I think being part of the animation and entertainment industry today, I'd love to hear from you guys on what, as creators, producers, and talent can keep doing to striving to give more equal opportunities. So any recommendations?
I think that, I'll try to answer that. I think that it does really start with intention, because you have to literally have the thought about representation when you're coming up with the ideas, when you're writing, when you're casting. And if you're not even thinking about it, it's easy to sort of default to the go-tos, which is, in some cases, it's just get me this person who always does a great job, but are you giving, opportunities to new young people with fresh, cool ideas and stuff like that? So intention, it starts with the intention, really.
I mean, I think, it's just that our stories matter and count, and always give it back to the community as I do indie film in Asian circles. I mean, the new thing I'm doing now is I call it like New Asian Media, which is borderless Asian media. So the last 2 films I've done is going into Asia and connecting to Asia, the financial systems that are Asia, celebrity systems that are in Asia, and connecting them with notable Asian Americans behind the camera here. And it's really just kind of like knowing that our stories are worth being told. There's value in it. Hopefully in 100 years it can be a moot point where it's like, of course, it all makes sense. As far as Asians in Hollywood, I don't think it's a coincidence that it kind of happened now, and kind of like Avatar and anime, all that stuff kind of led up to it. When I was talking a few years ago, when I do keynotes about Asians in media, I try to explain to people, especially Asians in the community that don't really see themselves. I'm like, you gotta see where we are and where we kind of scale. In the world of animation, like when Comic-Con blew open, you go there like 10 years ago, right, and it says, this is the festival or the convention for the popular arts. Like, popular arts? Like, what is that? And then you realize how big Asians are in the Comic-Con world, and how things like this are, nearly every artist is influenced by Asians in our industry that go that way, right? And when you go into Comic-Con, even to this day, it's the only subculture in pop culture that Asians are dominant. Whether you're white, black, Latino, or anything, they're jocking Asians. Everyone speaks a little Japanese or Korean. Everything's kawaii. Everyone eats Asian food, talk about Asian things. All the artists know about anime and know about the great Asian masters. And it's like, this is like the only culture that is like this, where in America, whether you're leaning more towards a white culture or a black culture, that's just how it's been. But when you go to the Comic-Con culture, everyone leans into the Asian perspective of the world, and it's really fascinating to really study what that is and what comes of that. And I've had these crazy conversations, right, in the Comic-Con world, even within like the last 2 Star Wars, I go, you see how much this is inspired by anime? People didn't understand the sides, didn't understand the love triangles. I'm like, that's anime. And you're talking to the audience like, oh my God. And so it doesn't surprise me that now, like, Hollywood is catching up to kind of a perspective that was actually really led by the nerds.
Yeah, catch up, Hollywood.
Catch up,
Hollywood. Okay, most underrated episode.
Was Boss Thing say that bad?
Underrated
Sorry.
episode. I love Boss.
Underrated, though.
I don't know. I mean, there are...
Sorry, I meant Great Divide. That's what I meant.
Great
Was
Divide.
the Great Divide that bad? That's what I totally flubbed that joke. I directed that episode.
I never think of underrated.
Because we always ask what's the
What's
best.
the best, right?
Okay, go with the best, and maybe you'll come up with the underrated after that.
I mean, Ember Island Players is probably one of my favorite. I mean, there's no better way to recap. I mean, it's so innovative the way they recap.
That was so much fun to do, the design for, because we were literally mocking in a way, like what we were doing for the last 3
I know, we were
years.
sort of trolling ourselves on that episode. But it's interesting too, though, because I feel like that episode pops because it's so wacky compared to the rest of the series. Whereas if we would have made a really wacky show, maybe that one super serious one would have been like the fan favorite. You know, that everyone was like, that episode was like real, though.
Dante, do you remember any lines or scenes that you love doing and yelling and?
I mean, you know, there's always the lines that I always know the lines the fans always want me to say.
Go for it.
Those lines, okay. Of course, I must capture the avatar and regain my honor. All day, every day. Other lines, simple lines that kind of became memes and craziness is, hello, Zuko here. For some reason, there. And then, of course,
My girlfriend's the moon.
that's rough, buddy. Like those lines. Those are the lines. Also, I love like why am I so bad at being good? Why am I so bad
That's a
at
good
being
one.
good? I think I ask myself that every day.
Speaking of the moon, would you rather date Kyoshi Warrior or the moon?
I know. Those Kyoshi Warriors. If you've never seen a troupe of Kyoshi Warrior cosplayers come into a con, it's still the most amazing cosplays. I was like, I've been to cons where it's like a dozen just walk through the door and you're like, oh my god. But I mean, dating the moon's pretty cool too.
Are you talking about UA or just straight up the moon?
I guess. Anyway, still don't know how it all works out, but it's a bummer.
Okay, let's see. Okay, here's some quick, we'll do speed round. Sky bison or dragon as your animal companion?
Dragon. Although, I mean, you know, Sky Bison are cool, but dragon.
Sky bison.
What is this for? If I'm going to war, or am I just like vacationing in you know, Vietnam? Because air bisons are pretty cuddly.
The Appa's a better ride, more comfortable.
That's great. Okay, and then what's your favorite avatar and why?
Which is your favorite avatar?
That's a tough one because to me it's either Aang or Korra. For me, I mean,
Right.
as much as I like the others, you know, there's, I don't know,
Roku.
They're the cool,
They're cool.
you know, they're the stars.
Yeah, Aang's Aang, I love Aang. Aang's great.
I like Korra.
And I love Korra too. I mean, if Janet was here, I was like, Varney, Korra for sure.
Well, thank you guys. This was really amazing, and thank you, Brian and Mike, for creating such a beautiful series. We're so proud of you guys. They are working on a live-action film, so we can't say more than that, but we're excited to see what more evolves.